Back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. These trips to Cleveland make me remember the early days. We used to go in there and beat the Browns the way we beat them on Sunday. This guy, I remember him having some early Browns meetings when they put the team and the band back together in 1999. Head coach Brian Billick joins us here on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation as always. Coach, 20 years later, I go out there. There's 13,000 fans. They're 0-14. It's as bad as it's ever been. And here we got a football team that's 8-6, and fans are giving their tickets away and don't want to show up. It really is a weird time with the Colts coming this week, the Browns in the rearview mirror, and how horrific that franchise has been. And here are the Ravens teetering around again and, quite frankly, playing the best football of the year right now. If they had played this kind of football all year, I don't think they'd be 8-6. I think they might be 10-4.
Yeah, and you take it when it comes. They're getting better at the right time. Now it's Cleveland, so let's be careful. Let's don't start making our tickets ready for Minneapolis just yet. But it's a very good sign because this is, if you were to take this game plan, if you were to take this box score, notwithstanding wanting to run the ball a little bit better, but 30+ runs, Joe efficient, no turnovers, the defense getting turnovers. This is the game they want to play. Now, can they duplicate this going against the better teams, particularly in the AFC? We'll find out, but they're showing that they at least can have that balance on days when they're playing well.
All right, I'm going to ask you the tough questions today. We're going to get off the space map here and talk about wide receivers a little bit. Perriman comes in, catches a ball. Wallace looks sort of rejuvenated. Flacco certainly looks healthier, moving around better, throwing the ball more normally. Not a lot of errant, passes. Certainly a lot of efficiency, taking care of the ball. Everything you'd want out of your 33-year-old quarterback. But the wide receiver thing, I took a little shot at Maclin when he went out, and not on the injury thing, because I always think that's stupid, unfair of the fans to say, well, Todd Heap's always injured, or this guy's, guys get injured. I don't know, they all want to play. In the case of Maclin, I just find it to be disappointing that you finally sort of get this decorated veteran guy that apparently still has more than half the gas left in the tank, not at the end like Steve Smith or Derek Mason or one of those guys who was mid-30s by the time you grabbed him. Why is it so hard with the wide receiver thing? We all know early on the rookies, they all sort of struggle. It's a crapshoot. But when you bring in a veteran guy to mesh with a veteran quarterback who still throws the ball pretty well, I don't know why it hasn't been better for this wide receiving core.
Well, anytime you bring a veteran in, keep in mind, there's a reason they were available. Now, in the case of Stephen Smith, you saw, Carolina mistakenly let him go a little too early. There's always that fine line into what's too early, what's too late. Jeremy Maclin, obviously, he's been an 80+ catch guy in this league, but when he left Philly, they didn't think he had a lot left in the tank. He goes to Kansas City, has a really good season with 80+ catches, and then the last season, 2016, he's in and out of the lineup and he's injured, and Andy Reid, who obviously has an affection for him, having had him in Philadelphia, thought, I don't think he has anything left. We're not going to expend the resources to keep him. So, there's a reason, that happens. And so in Baltimore, coming off the experience of Anquan Bolden or Stephen Smith going, we've done this before. We think this is the right guy. And right now it kind of looks like, no, Jeremy Maclin is kind of what he has been the last couple of years, tough staying healthy. And I'm with you 100%. You never question a guy's heart or courage. There's no question in my mind that he's hurt, but that's been a little bit of the issue. And so that potential, what did we say coming into the season? The optimism we had after doing all the preseason was that, if we can play really good defense, as has been the case, good run-stopping defense, get turnovers, run the ball better than they had before, and have a certain amount of explosiveness because of the receivers, whether it be Maclin or Perriman or obviously Wallace, that'd be a good combination. Well, it didn't really materialize together when the defense was struggling, stopping the run, and then they kind of get it back, and then the offense still is not getting real explosive. Well, now, as you alluded to, kind of the elements, this is kind of looking like what we thought we might get, And if we had gotten for the whole season, you're right, we'd be sitting here with 10 wins. But it's a good time, particularly with the way the playoffs seem to be sizing up, that getting into this mode just about the right time. That is going to be the question, because it's hard for me to imagine the Ravens are going to go very deep in the playoffs if they don't get more consistent big plays out of the receivers, something we've seen in bits and spurts, but not consistently.
He is our head coach on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation, and his familiar tone is at Coach Billick out on Twitter as well, and you can find him out at the NFL Network as well during the midweeks and just about any time opining, and he's a fun follow on Twitter on weekends as well, bringing his quick wit that he always brings here. In real time on Sunday, tell me what you, the guy at home, is thinking versus what Tomlin and Belichick must be thinking on that catch at the goal line with literally, if you're Mike Tomlin, everything at stake, from home field advantage to whom you're going to play to all of that. I don't know that we've ever had a circumstance or more or better drama at any point during a December football game than literally that 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. on Sunday night. It was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is. That was a heck of a game, and you had every bit of it, and two really great franchises and up and down the field. I mean, that was an entertaining game, certainly to watch. And as I watched it unfold, and I'm going to quote a superior source to me in Tony Dungy, when Tony said that in every other league, Pop Warner, midgets, high school, college, wherever they're playing football, any place else in the world, that is a touchdown, except the NFL. Now, the rule was adhered to. Based on the rules, it was not a catch. What I still do not understand, and we've joked about it a little bit, I've been at this for 45 years, and there's two things that I know I don't know. I don't know what people are looking for in a head coach, and I don't know what a catch is. And to me, where I would argue is that because we keep hearing this term, a football move, a move common to the game. To me, when he went down to the ground and extended the ball forward to cross the goal line, that was a football move. He finished the process. He was in the field of play. It was not out of bounds. It crossed the goal line, and that showed that football move that he had possession. Now, that's not obviously the way the rules people see it. They're all saying it was ruled properly, and I've got to believe that. But like Tony Dungy said, any place else in the world, that would be a catch.
That's a hell of a statement for where the league is at this point. I had Brandon Stokely. All he did was catch footballs in the league for 15 years. I had him on 3 weeks ago, and he's like, I don't know what's a catch and what's not a catch anymore, and it would be hard-pressed for them to explain it to me. Why is this so difficult? I mean, is this the downside of a bunch of you guys getting together in suits and ties with some pissed-off notion of something that happened on videotape back in October, that you get together in March, and this thing goes too far in the competition committee and in that direction because we've now broken the game down into the NBC at Cam where everything's in HD? I mean, are we fooling ourselves? Is it an optical illusion at this point?
A bit. Let's go back. Remember, I was doing games for Fox. I did the Calvin Johnson game of Detroit in Chicago, where the continuation of the process was born.
You were the first guy to had to make a case for this one way or another, ever.
Right, and I remember Mike Pereira and I going back and forth on it, and me looking at it from a football standpoint, saying, how can that possibly not be a catch? And Mike Pereira trying to explain it to me, I think it's exactly that. In trying to, sometimes in the effort to clean things up, clean the rule book up, try to make it more specific so that less judgmental for the officials, sometimes I think we take common sense out of it. So this continuation of the process, basically it just says you got to hold on to the ball. Okay, that part I get. But I'm not so sure that the way it's written that if you catch the ball, particularly, and it's different now when you're in the open field and you break the goal line versus in the end zone going out of bounds. To me, if you catch the ball in the end zone and you're going out of bounds, you need to take the ball with you back to the bench. That's the only way that you don't run the risk of someone saying, no, you did not continue the process. The thing that confuses me, as I said, was the caveat that, because at some point you have to give definition as to what is possession. Is it a time frame? Is it, as they say, you conducting a football act? What's the difference between the guy catching the ball on the 5-yard line, running into the end zone, okay, and bobbling it once he crosses the goal line? Is that a tincture of time? Or as they say, no, he's executed a football act to show possession. And that's, to me, what I saw in Jesse James. When an athlete extends his arms to break the plane, that shows he has enough control and is performing a football act. To me, that fits the criteria. But evidently, that's not the case.
How many years is the Calvin Johnson thing? But 9 years now? Something like that?
Oh, gosh, at least when it was, I think that was my first or second year, so that would have been 2008 or 2009.
So if I broke out the tape right now and had some fun with you and did some Alan Funt candid camera and heard whatever it was you were screaming about then, whatever Pereira was screaming about then, that we fast forward to right now, there's probably nothing different about how you feel about it, right? Literally.
You know, I always tell the story. It's an absolute true story. So we do the game, and we've gone back and forth with this. And so I'm driving back to the airport to catch my flight, I think back to L.A. to do my shows for the NFL Network. And my mother was still alive at the time, and she loved watching, games that I was coaching or broadcasting. And so I'd call her and see how she's doing. And she said, Brian, I don't understand. Explain to me she was talking about the Calvin Johnson play, why that wasn't a touchdown. So I try to explain to her, as it's been told to me by Mike Pereira and subsequently the league, as to why that's not a catch. And her answer was priceless. Out of the mouths of a 95-year-old woman who loves football, when I tried to explain to her, she says, oh my goodness, that just doesn't make sense. And she's right. It's hard. It is the rule, but to me, I think we have taken it so far, along with some replay where we are trying to remove the egregious error, and now we're trying to officiate the game frame by frame.
I don't know if it's the worst nightmare of the league or something that puts it back on the radar at this critical moment, but it is kind of the worst nightmare of the league to have that happen, because there's no way you're in Pittsburgh right now and are, just not pissed beyond all. I mean, I can't imagine your forehead if this was your football team, Coach.
Exactly. Now, well, it depends on where I'm at, whether I'm coaching in New England or coaching in Pittsburgh. Right now, people in New England are going, oh, yeah, that's right. Now, if it had been in the opposite, they'd have been screaming like stuck pigs. And the hard part is, and this happens, obviously, you have to orchestrate the game in a way that can be consistent and the like, but when you're looking at it, and to look at it in real time or in slow motion, and that the rule does not seem like it's common sense, that it seems contrary to the nature of the game, then that's where the fans struggle. That's when they begin, it's over-officiated and the suits are taking over and all that, and you have some frustration at a time, as you've noted, where the league as a whole is struggling a little bit with its fan base for a lot of different reasons.
Well, that's what I'm writing about all week, yeah.
Yeah, and this is one more thing that the fans, at least in Pittsburgh anyway, will say, well, see, the league's out of control and they really don't, they've got this thing so screwed up, we don't even know what a catch is anymore.
Coach Billick can be found at Coach Billick out on Twitter and, of course, at NFL Network. On behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation's work around here, you can go to livingclassroom.org and learn about all the cool stuff they're doing over at the Anthem House as well through the holidays. Coach, I want to go back to the Ravens here and maybe how this thing all ties together. The thing that I take out of Cleveland on Sunday, and I'm writing about all the empty seats and the lack of third down advantage and the Colts coming in and all the history and all that, but where the football team is right now, and I think from Steve Bisciotti right on down to the equipment managers, as you well know, it's all about winning games. They feel like if they win games, people will come, and that's all they really can do at this point is go win some football games. Flacco, Weddle, Suggs, Wallace, the 30-something guys on this team, healthy, playing well, playing hard, doing well, and showing some leadership here that I think you want to see from your football team in the middle of December, that the guys making the most are playing and playing well and leading the way. And I if there's any thought of going to Pittsburgh or New England 3 weeks from now, or even Jacksonville a couple weeks from now, and winning, it's going to be on the backs of this leadership group that they have.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be. And they can feel very good about it. They have the pedigree. We're going to, once we get into the playoffs, and it's hard for me to imagine that not going to happen over the next 2 weeks when you see, Buffalo's got to, now, Buffalo's got to win at New England and at Miami. That's compared to Baltimore that plays at home against Indy and Cincinnati. So, that's a pretty good, I like that matchup. And so, you got to believe that the 10 wins is going to get you in. And it's going to harken back to 2012, is it not? On a team that had fired its coordinator during the season, struggled offensively, found a little bit of rhythm to the point where Joe Flacco goes on an unbelievable playoff run of 11 touchdowns and no interceptions. The defense, let's remember, back then was not, I'm not sure the defense back then was any better than the one this year. Because they were, if I'm not mistaken, 12th, 13th, 14th in the league in defense. Although playing well in critical areas, I think you could make a case that right now that this defense is probably playing better than the defense did in 2012. So that's a pretty good scenario.
Well, they're certainly taking the ball away more, as a factor in the game for sure.
And so can there be optimism of going on the road that first week, and whether it be Kansas City, whether it be Jacksonville? Could it be Tennessee? I mean, we'll find out. Right now, it looks like it will be Kansas City or Jacksonville. We'll see. You got to, okay, yeah, I'm okay with that. Because Kansas City, obviously, although they're playing very well right now and gotten back into that mode that they did in the early part of the season, all but in Kansas City, I think there are some vulnerabilities there. Jacksonville, you still have to come down to it's Blake Bortles versus Joe Flacco. Who are you going to like in that matchup? So they got to feel pretty good about going into it. Now, can you go into Pittsburgh or New England and then do it again? That's going to be the challenge.
Head Coach Brian Billick can be found out on Twitter at Coach Billick, and, of course, always helping us with Living Classrooms Foundation. All right, last thing for you, Coach, before I let you go. And I know you and I have spoken, quite passionately about this over the course of time, but our mutual affection for Marvin Lewis. I don't think I think it's lost on the fan base here that you and Marvin were essentially strangers. I mean, he was the guy you found here who was already here, and in your mind, you clean house and you bring. I saw John Dorsey stalking, the press box in Cleveland on Sunday, looking to who he's going to keep and who he's not going to keep. And the general feeling is, you'll bring in all of his own guys. You didn't bring in your own guy defensively in Marvin, and you won a Super Bowl. And Marvin has gone on to do some great things in Cincinnati, turn that program around, and now we find that he's going to be stepping down. I know this brings great emotion to you because you do have a coaching tree, and you two take it very seriously.
Well, Marvin is such a huge part of what we did in Baltimore. You're right, and I did not come in with thinking that I was going to keep Marvin, and no one had suggested that I should. In fact, I'll be honest with you, there was a bit of mentality through the organization. I'm talking about from the very top down that maybe I ought not to think about Marvin as my defensive coordinator. And I had some other people in mind, but when I met with Marvin, and I had really respected Marvin because I felt like, remember that 98 group I had in Minnesota was pretty darn good. And I thought, given where they were and the talent that they had, or the lack of it, I thought Marvin did as good a job defending us and that special group with Randy Moss and Chris Carter and Jake Reed and on as anybody that we played, just schematically. So that impressed me. And so when I decided to keep Marvin, now remember, I brought in a very strong staff to challenge him, whether it be a Rex Ryan, a Mike Smith, Jack Del Rio. Those were some strong personalities. And Marvin did a brilliant job of absorbing what it is that I wanted to do with the personalities that I gave him that challenged him at every turn. And Marvin's a heck of a coach. He's had an unbelievable run in Cincinnati. But it is probably time. It's probably time for Marvin. In the times that I've visited with him, this job can wear you down. And Marvin's an outstanding coach. I can't imagine him not having another opportunity. If the reports are true that he's going to kind of step up into a quasi-general manager's role, I think that would be brilliant. I think Marvin's one of the best personnel people by way of coaching that I've ever been around. I hope he can do it on his terms because he has deserved it.
Hey, man, always great to visit with you. I hope you have a glorious holiday with your family. How many grandkids now? Give me the Billick family portrait.
It's going to be great. We're going to be in Columbus for the holidays with 2 grandkids. My daughter's going to come down from Detroit. The Pistons have a break, so we'll have everybody there in Columbus and gather around the tree. It'll be great.
Have a great holiday, Coach. We'll see you on the other side, and hopefully we're having our own little Purple Festivus celebration around here playing some football 2 weeks from now. Thanks for coming on, Coach.
Merry Christmas.
You got it. Merry Christmas. There he goes, head coach Brian Billick on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation. And, of course, you can follow his journey out on Twitter at Coach Billick as well. You can find me out on the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. The morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's always $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, and there's never any commitment. Tell you what, D&O window tinting, when you get these snowstorms and the snow on the ground and the sun coming off the snow, 26 years now of tinting everything. Cars, boats, businesses, they put the shades on the sun, they take away the squint. They're in Parkville and in White Marsh. D&L window tinting. It's not just a summer sunshine thing. It's sometimes even more important in the wintertime to get your windows tinted. Trust our friends over at D&L to do that for you. Also tell you about our friends at Costas Inn. It's the holidays around here. Lots of folks looking for those fat crabs when folks come back in, brothers, sisters, families, gatherings. Good enough for the Today Show, good enough for my mom. I can highly endorse and recommend the experience at Costas Inn. Fat crabs, cold beer, the legend continues. Go to CostasInn.com. They also ship those crab cakes for the holidays at CostasInn.com. You can find me anytime, anywhere, nasty at WNST.net, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.